sometimes comes, they get the funding for the Kickstarter, but then they can't do it. They don't actually deliver on the Kickstarter.
And that is kind of a risk, and that's one of the things that may kill the, kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs kind of thing, is that there is no legal requirement for anyone to actually fulfill their it's a social contract, not a legal contract.
But I've heard now people are getting upset.
Yeah.
And they're grouping together now. And that's part of the reason Kickstarter is changing the rules and in fine print.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear more about that, more advanced things. And also crowdfunding is really changing. There's problems with Kickstarter. One of our guys just did a like $70,000 Kickstarter and he missed it by $25.
Yep.
And they tried and tried and it was $25 and it didn't matter.
Can I do something on this?
Go.
Okay. So, and your buddy probably did the smart thing and didn't fund himself, because if he would have been like, man, I'm 25 bucks, I'm just going to throw this. If you do that, if you fund your own Kickstarter, Amazon payments will lock your account and you cannot get those funds.
Well, how do they know?
Because it's tied to your credit card. So they see your account and they see your name and they compare the names. And when they see
tied to IP addresses.
that you're funding your account.
Because all these people posted right afterwards and just...
No, I know.
They said, you are such a fool. You did all this. You
right.
deserve to fail. And they just bring you down.
And that's incredibly unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the risks that you run when you're relying on a crowd and you're relying on a format that is all or nothing. Had he gone with Indiegogo, then he would have been able to collect all of his funds, because Indiegogo is a different type of crowdfunding alternative.
Well, they have two choices.
Wherein you can choose to do either an all or nothing campaign or a whatever you get is whatever you get campaign.
But what came out of that was they all said everybody does it. Everybody puts in some of their own money so that they can get
That is false and also a crime.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you are doing it as a company, that is a crime. It is a crime to give yourself money. It is fraud.
Yep, it's considered fraud from the books. And there have been people who there have been a lot of people who have gotten in a lot of trouble and gotten their accounts completely locked and lost their funds because of that. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could ask a family member to contribute.
Right.
That would be a little fuzzy, but still within.
Why didn't you pay your mom's credit card and put in $25?
And that's unfortunate, but again, that's the risks that you run when you're doing an all-or-nothing campaign. The advantages to doing an all-or-nothing campaign is that there is that extra tension, that extra feeling of risk, which gets the community more motivated and involved. Because then there is kind of this pushing for the finish line kind of feeling that you don't have as much in a campaign where it's kind of like toss in a couple dollars to this pre-order effort. So there's definite risks that you have to manage.
Indiegogo takes more off the top if you don't do an all-or-nothing.
Indiegogo takes 9% off the top if you fail to reach your level, you fail to reach your goal, and then they take 5% if you do reach your goal. Actually, it might be 4%.
I think it's 4.
So everything has its pros and cons, and I guess that's kind of where building an audience really comes in, is you need to know what your audience is in order to get the most out of crowdfunding.
Yes.
And really put some time and thought and effort into that so you don't end up in that kind of unfortunate situation.
So if it was his mom's credit card, that's totally legitimate?
Yes, because it's not coming from him.
It's not going into his account. It's not him paying himself to make funding. And that's the entire, it sucks.
So that's what you need to do then. You have to...
Or what you need to do is go into social media and say, guys, I am literally 25 bucks away from funding.
Yeah, but the problem is right at the end, it's all coming in, so you're not sure, and it just like went right up at the end. Yeah. And maybe you guys talked about that bell curve.
Oh yeah.
Does it do that?
It does. Oh yeah. Because a lot of people go, oh, this is a great project, la 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 la, and then they go and skip through a field of daisies for 29 days, and then they see the last
it's like any human with a deadline.
Yeah. They go, oh, ha ha.
But here's the other thing: when they bid, they're not giving you the money when they bid. The money comes out at the end. So a lot of people wait until day 25, 28 to make sure, I have money in my account. Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to bid on this now, and then in 30 days I just paid a bunch of bills, I don't have the money for it, and then my credit card gets declined. So a lot of people, a lot of your supporters will, right off the bat, they'll support you. But then we even had some supporters that they gave us, a certain amount, and then at the very end they like doubled their amount or upped their amount because hey, I can actually afford to go more.
We realized we had more money than we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
And we did have people that were declined. What Kickstarter will do through Amazon Payments is they'll give you 2 weeks to actually collect those funds. So it'll keep trying. Like if it gets declined the first time, it'll actually keep trying. So it won't deny you. Like say you were $5 over your goal, but you couldn't collect like 25 of the funds. We'll just use those random numbers. It won't say, oh, well, suddenly you're not funded because you couldn't collect the money, because it will keep trying for the 2 weeks. And whether it collects or not, that's Amazon, but you're still technically funded, so it treats you as a funded project and goes through the next process.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What was the most profitable, the favorite award level for?
It'll depend on your project. For me, since it was book 2.
I'm asking about yours.
Yeah, okay. For me, since I was offering book 2, what I did was I offered bundles of 1 and 2 for anyone that was a new reader, and then single elements. I do hardcover and softcover editions. So by far, my most popular level was, I believe, the bundle version softcover 1 and 2. And I actually had a lot of people say, "Oh, I've been meaning to pick this up." Kickstarter, if you already have an existing project that you're working on, it is a great "I've been meaning to support you" opportunity, because of that social deadline element. So for me, that was what was the bundled soft covers and very closely the bundled hard covers. For me, was it for you guys?
I think we had like a
40 and 60.
Yeah, I think we had a 3-way tie between the book, because we offered just the book, and that was at 20?
30.
Or 30?
Because we covered shipping.
Yeah, so we offered a book at 30, and then we offered a book with a special sketch in it at around 50, and I think we offered something else, and then we offered
a
$100
one that had quite a bit of the merchandise.
Yeah, it was basically like a merch package plus a bonus.
Yeah, it had like bookmarks, prints, buttons, things like that in it.
A special sketch.
And a special sketch, and that was $100, and that one was actually the one. Surprisingly, that for a long time was by far our highest one.
Yeah.
And then the others kind of kicked in.
Again, Kickstarter, statistically, the most popular levels are 50 and 100, and that's where a lot of people get their bulk funding from. But on average, the average pledge is 35.
Yeah.
So for me, it was 40, very close to the 35 level, and 60, very close to the 50 level. And then you guys were seeing, it sounds like about
we
30.
had the 3 levels that were very, very popular, but then we did have a bunch that came in at other levels.
Yeah.
So I would have to pull my things and actually give you like a detailed analysis of my report.
Yeah, I know that our first day, $100 one was by far the most popular.
Yeah, like I think I don't remember, but yeah, the $100 one was popping.
Yep.
And that surprised me.
I know.
Any other questions? So did we answer yours?
Yeah. Okay. And did we cover yours a bit?
Oh,
I know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You said you got extra money when people at the end they doubled it or whatever. People were saying a lot in some of our stuff that a lot of people failed to deliver the money that they pledged they would give.
That's what she was talking with declined
how
levels.
much that didn't really affect you much?
It didn't affect me very much.
I think for us, I can't remember, because what it will do is, I think Amazon Payments turns around and emails them, hey, we tried to charge your card for this thing, but the funding got denied. And I actually had a bunch of the people reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, we're so sorry, my card got declined, I'm resolving the issue. I had like almost everyone who was declined tell me personally, we're taking care of it, please don't think I don't want to fund you. And I was like, dude, like no problem, when you can take care of it, you take care of it, because it's just going to roll into the account when it gets approved. But they were like, they felt embarrassed actually.
I think a lot of that comes though from how we do business, engage with people. I'm a webcomic, so I update 3 times a week. I have a very loyal readership. I'm very connected with them. I try to connect with them as much as possible on a personal level. So there's a difference when you're funding between, I kind of compare it to, if you met a stranger on the street and they asked you for money, chances are you would probably try not to make eye contact and walk away.
Right.
But if your best friend meets you on the street and says, hey man, I really need help, you're probably going to help them.
Yeah.
And because we do regularly updated material, we're active on Twitter, we're active on social media networks, we're not faceless anymore. We have made ourselves human to people.
Well, and I will say, we also did smaller level, like Kickstarters.
Yeah.
We didn't do a $70,000
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
that's
I think both
important.
of ours was around 3,000.
Mine was 4,000.
Yours was 4,000
Yeah.
and ours was
3,000.
3,000. So we did small level Kickstarters, but we also had stretch goals to go with those. So we didn't really have like, you know, that $500 level that someone pledged at, and then all of a sudden their pledge didn't come through.
Yeah.
I could see for a large Kickstarter like that becoming a serious problem.
Yeah.
And when you have projects like a game or like a documentary, those are so much more expensive. It's actually why there's kind of, you'll look at the breakdown by project and see how much different types are more or less likely to fail. Comics are 50-50, and I think a good part of that is that the expenses for a comic are relatively low. They're big enough that they're kind of hard to say, yeah, I've got $7,000 just lying around, but compared to $70,000, which is a drop in a bucket to a documentary, that's very reasonable and very easy to get. But if you're doing a game that maybe requires, you know, 100,000, 200,000, $1 million to realistically make a really good game, you might be in for a more of a challenge, which means you need to do a lot more front work with building that audience and building that loyalty. Otherwise, it's going to be an incredible challenge for you to actually make it.
It sounds like that's really the key for marketing too. Is when you make a Kickstarter, you already have to have the audience all there, ready to go, and then they just fill up.
You don't have to have all of them, but I mean, we've said this several times, but we definitely had an audience going in. It's like that stranger method. Like I think I see a lot of Kickstarters who start their Kickstarter and no one's ever heard of them or their project.
And they never talked about it.
And they never talked about it beforehand. I mean, when we say we're active on Twitter, we are, all three of us, we are very active on Twitter. And we've been,
Constantly.
yeah.
How long?
You mean how long duration?
How long have you built that audience?
2 or 3, 2 years for me.
At least 2 or 3
I've been
years.
building an audience because I have another webcomic as well that's popular. So I've been building an audience with that for about 2.5 years. But an audience on Twitter, I'd say about a year and a half, yeah.
I've been about 2 years. Well, and I will say, one thing that happened with us is that we were going to launch the Kickstarter, and then Jason got hit by a hurricane, that huge one that hit New York and
It just hit
closed
him
the
personally.
city.
It did hit
And
me
then, and it hit on a personal level because he was in the evacuation zone. So we basically went full stop on everything, and just, we were blasting Twitter being like, hey guys, our life sucks. Like, Jason's currently in an evacuation zone. And I will say, I think that horrible thing actually worked out really well for the Kickstarter in the long run, because it had us talking about it more than we were originally. And we realized that after the fact. We're like, oh my gosh, like half these people didn't realize we were about to launch a Kickstarter, and now they do. So that's awesome, but I'm so sorry that you are homeless, Jason. So, wow, that's awful.
You know,
so it's really, yeah.
I think a big mistake that people make with social media is it's easy to go on and say, hey, I have a Kickstarter, go check it out. Hey, I have a Facebook page, go like it. Hey, here's my comic, go see it. But to get an audience, you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
You have to be interactive with your audience, be it on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus or Vine or whatever you're using. You have to know, if you walked up to your friend and you were like, here's all the stuff I'm working on and here's all this and I don't really care what you're up to, but here's all my stuff, take a look.
At some point you need to fit in, how's the kids?
Right, you build an audience. I have people on Twitter that when we post a picture from a con, they want to know what we're up to. They want to know what we're doing. And I feel the same way about a lot of them. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know what's going on and check in with them. So I think it's, building an audience is not just spamming people with your stuff, though that is part of it.
It's a willingness to promote, but also a willingness to be available.
And to engage with them,
And you can still do that on a professional level, because you can keep it all talk about the project. Like, hey, where do you think you're going to, because was it a tabletop game or a video game that your friend was doing? Or
Video game.
because you could be like, hey, what sort of level do you like? If you talk to someone, if you just ask your audience and try and get them to engage, that gets them more excited. Like, we actually had a lot of our fans, and I think you did too, as you said with your birthday birthday drive, but we had a lot of our fans get so excited, they started talking to their friends, and that's when we got introduced to new people, and they were like, oh wow, we had no idea you even existed. Now we want to support you because my friend whom I trust spoke so highly of you, and I see why. Now we're invested.